as you noted, you've been in Israel for only 6 months, and yet you've already had the opportunity to meet government, academia, society, and business a number of times. Everyone has been impressed by how engaging you are, how warm, how open, how available. And that is, that marks a change. You're the fourth ambassador that I have had the privilege of working with, and the first who has been so available and accessible. So where does this contrast come from? We know that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China is very professional and very connected to the establishment in China, so and follows the directives very clearly and carefully. So does it mean there's been a change in the ministry with respect to what kind of engagement there should be with China? Can I ask you to take the mic, please?
As long as the war is going on, its influence on the bilateral exchanges is unavoidable. But we remain optimistic and confident that both sides, I mean both China and Israel, have enough wisdom to limit the influence of the war to the minimum level and bring the bilateral relations back to its normal track. Since the end of last year, we all saw the restart of China-Israel relations. Our two foreign ministers meeting actually sent a very strong and important signals to both of us, to both sides. Regarding to this, I would like to say that the practical cooperation played an irreplaceable role. So during the war, a great number of Chinese companies, technicians, and workers choose to stay in Israel, and their contribution to the local economic and social development should not be ignored. The Haifa Bay Port, run by the Shanghai International Port Group, has been in operation the whole years without any single day of closing, even though hundreds of rockets poured into Haifa city and the northern part of Israel. The Tel Aviv light rail red line, constructed with the participation of China Railway Tunnel Group, is currently longest in Israel, with daily riderships of more than 120,000 passengers. A few days ago, I visited the tallest building, 320 meters high, beyond tower, built by Chinese company, is set to become the tallest skyscraper in Israel. And also we all know China Hainan Airlines has been keeping its direct flights between us throughout the war. So I just want to say our bilateral diplomatic ties dates back to 33 years ago. But the friendly exchanges between Chinese people and the Jewish people can be traced back to 1,000 years ago, which is more long-lasting, permanent, and profound. So no matter how the situation in this region or in the world changes, China's commitment to develop our traditional friendship remains unchanged. Anyhow, the early date of ceasefire and the full resumption of humanitarian aid in Gaza will help to advance our cooperation with more confidence. Thank you.
So first of all, this reminds me of one of the other contrasts between Israel and China. You take a 1,000-year perspective, and it's true. And if we zoom out to that 1,000-year perspective, what happened over the last year and a half will be dimmed. But I will say that what I understand from your remarks, and we do very much appreciate that Hainan Air continued to fly, and we very much appreciate that the Chinese workers chose, the government was thinking of pulling them out and then agreed that they should have their own choice, and they chose to stay. And I think that's not only a testament to their commitment to their job, but also a testament to the very good work environment of Israel and the fact that it's generally quite safe here in spite of everything, due to, we heard earlier from the Israel aircraft industry executive who spoke about how Israel is protected, and that's why we can sit here and peacefully speak while we know that at any time rockets and missiles can fly. So we do really appreciate that. And I also understand from your remarks that, in fact, there was a message from your ministry that it's time to improve the relationship that did suffer over the last year and a half due to the war. And of course, yes, many countries are very frustrated with Israel. And yes, Israel will definitely be able to have better relations with China and many other countries when we can move on in this very complex situation. But with respect to that, 2 weeks ago, you did an interview, very impressive, on an English language TV channel here in Israel, where you unequivocally condemned Hamas's barbaric attack on October 7th. And that was very much appreciated, but a long time in coming, because there was no clear official condemnation from the Chinese government until then. So can you please tell me what was the reason that it took so long, or up until now, and why was now the time that was decided?
Since October 7th, China has been calling for a ceasefire and the protection of civilians and the release of the hostages and civilians held captive as soon as possible. And we also done lots to facilitate the release of Israeli hostages. So China opposed any violent attacks against civilians and condemned the violations of international humanitarian laws. The violent attacks by Hamas on 7th of October that lead to heavy casualties among Israeli civilians is unacceptable. So we condemn it. At the same time, the whole world, including China, are so concerned of the situation in Gaza and oppose the acts that resulted heavy casualties among Gaza civilians. So I think if someone with an understanding of Chinese culture and the Chinese rhetorical logic, he or she may know that China did not hold off its opposition and condemnation on those violent attacks. And in my views, and I think this is also China's side's views, neither Israelis nor Palestinians should become the target of armed attacks. Violence for violence will only lead to an endless cycle of revenge. As I said before, it is unlikely to break the cycle of violence if the intergeneration transmission of hatred cannot be prevented. So we believe that if it is the civilians on both sides will continue to suffer or bear the toll, we should try our best to cooperate together to jointly find the way out of the predicament. I think this is my response to your question.
I understand. I think using the word revenge might be confusing. One of the, as you know, the stated goal is to end the threat. For Israel, and I'm sure if China were in such a situation, you would do what it takes to prevent such a thing from happening to your people at all costs. And we know that China is very careful about protecting its people, takes it very seriously. So I'm sure there's a lot of respect by the Chinese, both the people and the government, for Israel's effort to protect its citizens. I'd like to ask you, President Trump recently concluded his first international trip, and he went to the Middle East, and it was the first one of his second administration. And he was there in order to secure investments and deals with the Gulf, which is also a very important partner for China. We see that there's a lot of activity by the Gulf between China and the United States, turning to one, getting benefits, turning to the other, getting benefits. How does China view this new American-led effort, and how does Beijing interpret these actions in our region?
We welcome all the initiatives and the measures conducive to the stability and the development in the Middle East, and the efforts of the Middle East countries to independently explore their own development model should also be respected. President Trump's Gulf visit has drawn broad attention. So there are lots of media coverage and analysis. Among of them, I agree with two observations. First, the United States is strategically integrating the resources-intensive and the capital-intensive regional countries into its mega agenda. So this reminded me of what President Kennedy once said, ask not what the state can do for you, ask what you can do for the state. So the regional countries engaging with the United States are now facing the similar situation. Ask not what the United States can do for the regional countries, ask what the regional countries can do for the United States. So it's hard, for me, it's hardly to say Washington really cares about the development and the well-being of the regional countries. Second, the United States is prioritizing interests over values and norms. Within this context, Washington just began to reshape or redefine its relationship with regional allies. So if regional allies merely drain the American resources without delivering any benefits, Washington will inevitably get disappointed and became impatient. Maybe, I don't know. Under the doctrine of American First, I think no ally enjoys exceptionalism. So if the US can withdraw from the Middle East to shed the burden, it may also come back when it sees new benefits. When a major power puts its self-interests above responsibility and obligation, it risks undermining the regional stability. And this is the second observation from the media, from the analysis. I agree with it. So China does not pursue the sphere of influence, seek proxy relationships, nor aim to filling the power vacuum in the Middle East. We focus our efforts on fostering cooperation, promoting development, and enhancing stability. We support regional countries in choosing common security over zero-sum games and united over bloc confrontation so as to jointly establish or build new security architecture for the Middle East. The Saudi-Iranian reconciliation under the mediation of China and under the guidelines of China's global security initiatives is an important step towards the new security architecture in Middle East.
Very broad, wide net that you threw, and provides a lot of insight for us into the Chinese perspective. My final question, because you have been very generous with your time, Israel's actions in the region have changed many of the dynamics, and there are new narratives now in Lebanon and Syria, and hopefully soon in Gaza. Sanctions are being lifted in Syria. Syrians are returning or thinking about returning with the treasure that they have accumulated abroad. Is this an opportunity for China? Will China, given its great capabilities in development and construction, et cetera, infrastructure, will the changes in the Middle East be something that will be a focus or an interest for China?
Egypt is the first Middle East country China established diplomatic ties with in 1956. So until 1992, when Israel and China established diplomatic ties, so we have diplomatic relations with all of the members in this region. So in the past 70 years, in the past 7 decades, we're having a very, generally speaking, we're having a very good, smooth, and friendly communications with the regional countries. So from this, one of the important experience and the lessons we draw from this is that development, the religions problems, the geopolitical conflicts, are the major contributors to the disorder or instability of this region. But above all of that, development or development issues, we know that always plays a very critical role for the building of stability in this region. So this is the reason why we insist on the cooperation with the regional countries. I agree with you. The Middle East now is at a turning point. We saw the changes after 7th October, and in some of the regional countries like Lebanon, like Syria. So this offers us, not China, I mean the whole world, a new perspective to see what will happen and what should be done. So I hope China could contribute for the stability and development of this region, not only in the fields of infrastructure constructions, but also in the political consultations and political wisdoms.
On that note, I want to thank you so much, Ambassador Xiao, for joining me. I want to thank you for being with us all afternoon, and I want to officially announce the conclusion of the 9th Annual Conference on Israel's China Policy. Thank you so much.